things are really starting to heat up with this Michigan sign stealing situation. According to a Monday report from ESPN's Pete Thamel, a Michigan staffer paid people to film Michigan's upcoming opponents. Is this something that could affect the Wolverines this season? And I would be absolutely shocked if Jim Harbaugh is back on the Michigan sidelines next season.
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
Right off the bat, I want to say this. I'm sick of Big Ten scandals. This is the absolute last thing that I want to talk about during the college football season. Whether it was sign stealing, whether it was buying cheeseburgers in a COVID dead period, whether it was Mel Tucker, or whether it was Northwestern hazing. This is the second such investigation into the University of Michigan. And I don't think it's any surprise that this is yet another investigation on Michigan, because it's no secret what Jim Harbaugh has said about the NCAA. It's no secret that Jim Harbaugh may have incited, at least put a target on his back as it pertains to the NCAA. This thing did not start off very good for Michigan. Remember last week when Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports really peeled back the first layer of the onion in terms of this story, and it mentioned Connor Stalions. You know what Connor did right away? He wiped his social media. You know what happened shortly after that? Michigan suspended him. Those two things right off the bat really portrayed a sense of seriousness in this topic. And the Big Ten also has voiced their voice a couple of things throughout this situation as well, which they want to try to get out in front of this thing to try to help Michigan as much as they can. Let's dive into this report from Pete Thamel of ESPN, because I want to get some details correct before I kind of give my reaction and what could possibly happen next. So according to Pete Thamel's report, Stalions purchased tickets in his own name, but then he forwarded tickets to people across the country. We've seen images of Connor Stalions on the Michigan sideline. So then you kind of take that, and then you look at this report from Pete Thamel. What this really tells me is Connor Stalions is purchasing tickets for what I'm assuming to be locals near these facilities where these games are taking place, and then they are filming the games on their phone. According to stadium surveillance, apparently it's both sides of the stadium around midfield at a point where you'd be able to clearly see the signals from the other sideline. And the unique thing really about this situation is the recency of it. Right? According to this report, tickets were purchased by Stalion for this Ohio State-Penn State game that was played just a couple of days ago. Now, although the tickets were bought for that game featuring the Nittany Lions and the Buckeyes, both future opponents that Michigan has not played yet, apparently the seats were empty, of course, when Stalion was suspended. Probably called off the dogs at that point, it's pretty safe to say. Although we're talking about recency, this has been something, according to Pete Thamel's ESPN report, that has allegedly been going on for a handful of years, where Stalions has been purchasing tickets for folks to film some of these games. We're talking about 30 games over the past 3 years at 11 different Big Ten schools. Sources at 11 different league schools told Pete Thamel at ESPN. So that's the information. And the thing that I think everybody wants to know right now, were rules broken? And if so, which NCAA rules were broken? And what could be the ramifications during the rest of this season and possibly in the future? Here's an excerpt pulled from the ESPN article, word for word. I really want to get this one right. The first NCAA rule in question is scouting in opposing stadiums, which has been in place since 1994. The second potential rule being broken, evidence of which had not been reported prior, could mean that Michigan violated Article 11, subsection H of the NCAA football rule book, and I quote, "Any attempt to record, either through audio or video means, any signals given by an opposing player, coach, or other team personnel is prohibited." So let's tackle the first thing. In-person scouting. What is a scout? According to this ESPN Pete Thamel report, Stallions purchased tickets for, we're not sure who these people were. Sounds like it could be locals or just other people that Stallions knew. As of now, it does not appear that they were associated with the University of Michigan. So Michigan getting pegged for that first one, I think is going to be a little bit more difficult because we just don't know who these people were. The people that were actually at the stadiums doing the scouting, I think they could be anybody. They could be anybody. So that's going to take a little bit more to uncover for the NCAA. I don't think it's definitely going to happen this season, but that's going to take a little bit more digging if they want to get them on that one. I think it's more likely that Michigan could get pegged on the second possible violation that Pete Thamel mentioned. Because right now, these other stadiums can have surveillance of a person filming video on their smartphone in the section and the seat that Connor Stallions paid for, the tickets that he paid for in those areas. That can exist, but you need to connect it back. You need to prove that it ended up in the Michigan facility and they use that for means for scouting to gain an advantage by knowing what the other team was going to do. If you just have someone shooting video in tickets that Connor Stallions paid for, you got a little bit, but you don't have it all. I really think there's two big questions. After all of this information, two big questions could determine what the future looks like at Michigan. Number one, did Jim Harbaugh know about the purchases and did he obtain the video? Jim Harbaugh came out with a statement that said he had no knowledge of these things that were happening. So not only could they get him, they could get him that he lied about it. I believe it's going to take more time to kind of connect those things because things are kind of happening little by little. Now they are happening at a pretty decent pace right now, but I think it's going to take a lot more to connect the video that was taken in these seats that Connor Stallions purchased and connect it back inside the Michigan facility. If the NCAA can prove that the video shot on these smartphones where the tickets were purchased by Michigan analyst Connor Stallions, and that video ended up around assistants or maybe even around Jim Harbaugh, that's where stuff could really hit the fan. What kind of penalties could stem from this? I think that's what everybody wants to know. We know the NCAA isn't exactly the fastest moving organization, and what are we at? We're late October. You've got a month left in the regular season. Michigan has 4 games remaining. Obviously, none of this involved players. So I think what you're going to see is suspensions from coaches. If they proved that Jim Harbaugh knew about it and was involved, you could see him gone for the remainder of the season. Another question that people are talking about, and it is an important question, but I don't think it's as important as did Jim Harbaugh and people inside the facility obtain this video and did they know about it? But that question is who funded the purchases? Because this is a guy in Connor Stallions that just became a full-time analyst. According to Michigan and public records, he was making $55,000 a year. And this is purchases over time and thousands of dollars in ticket purchases. So that could be a paper trail kind of situation where if they find out and connect things to maybe the coaching staff or someone higher up on the payroll, so to speak, that could maybe lead them to other things that I mentioned in my first question, where did Jim Harbaugh know about it? Did higher level coaches know about it? Did this video end up in the facility and Michigan used it to gain an advantage on the field? A couple of thoughts to really round off this thing and more my reaction and what's going to happen going forward. This is continued motivation for Michigan, right? It happened in the offseason. Free Harbaugh, everybody lining up and putting 4 fingers in the air, right? And now you've got this. I think this takes the Michigan motivation to another level. Okay, right now, I think Jim Harbaugh, and it seems like the attitude within this program is everybody's got it out for us. The NCAA is trying to take us down. This isn't a team that needs motivation. This is already a supremely talented team, and their motivation has been losses to Georgia and TCU in the last 2 years in the college football playoff semifinals. That alone is a pretty good amount of motivation. And now you pile on these NCAA investigations. Now you pile on the man is trying to take us down. This isn't something that Ohio State wants to hear. This isn't something that Penn State wants to hear, because now you have unleashed the monster. You have let the Tyrannosaurus Rex outside of Paddock 9. I said it this offseason. This appears to be a last dance scenario where a lot of people that maybe could have gone pro came back for one last season to finish the unfinished business, to win a national championship and maybe capture an undefeated season for the Michigan Wolverines. But the more this thing kind of goes along, that's the on the field, the personnel, the players perspective that I just took a look at. Now from a Jim Harbaugh perspective, with 2 NCAA investigations piling up, he's already flirted with the NFL the last 2 seasons. As of this point in time, it would be very, very surprising if Jim Harbaugh is on the sidelines in Ann Arbor, Michigan next season. This is how these things end, folks. Look at how Pete Carroll left USC. Look at Urban Meyer over a few of these stops. This is how these things go. High-profile head coaches at the college level, sometimes the timing works out where these investigations happen. Oh yeah, now I'm going to the National Football League. This is an ever-evolving situation. I think it's sped up a little bit. The NCAA and the higher-ups at the NCAA are involved in this investigation. The Big Ten is serious about it. Michigan is serious about it. The NCAA is serious about it. This is going to be an ongoing storyline as we continue throughout Michigan's run to a possible national championship. I want to hear what you guys think out of this whole situation. Do you think the NCAA has a vendetta against Jim Harbaugh? Do you think that they are targeting Michigan? And do you think Michigan gets out of this unscathed? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.